I'm installing this LS2 6.0 in my 2006 Corvette budget build. Now I got no idea what I'm doing, so this is going to be quite entertaining. So let's jump right into it and start lowering this motor inside this car. Now like I said, I have no idea what I am doing. I've put motors in classic cars, but never a C6, and C6s tend to be a little difficult when it comes to mechanically, experience. Okay. Pretty sure this bumper is gonna have to come off. All right, so I have the motor just sitting in here right now. I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect the hoist. I'm gonna have to take this bumper off because I just don't have enough, wiggle room. We should be able to gain about, 4 inches or so, which is a lot, so they say. Roll the hoist back. Now this bumper is basically barely even on there to begin with. So it shouldn't be too complicated to figure out what's holding this thing on. Bumper should just pop right off now. There we go. Bumper's off. All right, so I got the motor just resting on its own weight. I'm gonna go take this intake off because it's causing too much of a hassle. Intake's off. All right, so I'm ankle deep in this thing now and I have no idea what I'm doing. I was reading on the forums that we're gonna have to go ahead and drop this cradle here. And to do that, if I read correctly, we have to do these 4 control arm bolts, that lower shock bolt on both sides, and there's cradle nuts around here somewhere that we have to loosen, and we could either fully take the subframe out or we could just lower it, because the biggest problem is the balancer on the motor will not clear the steering rack, which is causing a huge issue. All right, so it is about a day later. It's actually a full day later. Yesterday, I went through 2 shirts. I had about 3 strokes. I drank about 2 gallons of water, and I was dehydrated and I couldn't think straight. I don't know what I did. We're gonna figure this out, okay? This car has to roll again. It's blocking, it's in my driveway, okay? So we gotta get this thing back together. I'm starting to panic. I got things all over the place. Front of the car is just on the floor. Motor's just sitting there with a jack. I'll tell you what though, I did get that thing aligned. I got a few bell housing bolts in, so we're starting to look good. So I'm just gonna tidy a few things up, get all those bell housing bolts tight, thanks to GM. I don't know how I'm gonna do that, okay? So let's get to that. All right, so here's what we got so far. I'm basically going through all of the wiring harness, retaping everything up, making sure all the wires are all sealed and clean. I have all this taped up. I'm gonna go through this harness right here. I'm just gonna go through all the wires, all the grounds, make sure everything is clean. I have some of the sensors plugged in, definitely not all of them yet, but we got some of them plugged in. Okay, so now we're moving on to the starter. So for this, I have a Power Master mini starter because this motor originally when I bought it did not have a starter. So I figured get one smaller because we're gonna have headers on here. And I heard the OEM starters heat soak and all that. So I had this clock to avoid the crank sensor. This is ground. This one is ground as well. And then power. And then this is for the OEM starter. We have to cut this and put a ring terminal on it. And we have to wrap these in electrical tape. All right, so considering I bought someone else's project, when I was wiring the starter, I had no idea which wires are which. He had all black wires for everything. So basically what I had to do is I took the whole harness, brought it out of the passenger side of the car, and then I tracked down this alternator wire because this also goes to the starter. And if you follow it, it comes out right there, and then it goes into this wire right here. So you could tell why I thought this was a ground, of course. So now this goes to the positive terminal on the starter. So now I have some thick electrical tape. I'm gonna rewrap all this up nicely and go ahead and finally wire the starter up. All right, so I have this whole harness all wrapped up and cleaned up. We wrapped all the wires underneath the loom. Everything is all tight and good. She ain't going nowhere, I ain't kidding you. So now we gotta run this harness back through the motor, out to this side and then down there, and then we can wire up the starter. Alright, so we got the starter all mounted up. Since, like I was saying, this is a new Power Master starter, I am going to have to extend this power wire. This is for the alternator. This goes onto the main power for the starter. But I have everything all zip tied up. I did test the header to see where the pipes run. So this seems to be, it is going to be in the clear. Probably will clean this up a little bit and put some heat shrink on there. Not heat shrink, heat protectant. We just have it all tied up for now to get ourselves an idea. Got the power for the battery. And then now we're going to jump to the driver's side of the car. And we're just gonna button up a few things here, like put this ground on and then mount the harness to the bell housing back there. Okay, so this side of the motor harness is all set. We have the knock sensor, we have the ground there, another ground there, the mounting point for the harness there, cam sensor in. So this side is all good. We got the oil pressure sensor in back here. I had to get a new one. So basically all that's left for the engine harness is that's really it until we put the intake on. And we have all this to put up, and we also will put new loom on all this. So I'm thinking get all this cleaned up, get the situation organized, and then we're gonna start putting the subframe in.